Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Inia Desnia show. Very excited to be here. Again, always appreciating everyone that took out time to step back and just be with me here today. Whether stepping back or sitting down, wherever, but thank you for being with me here today. And if this is your first time, this is the Dr. Inia Desnia show. And here I talk about or provide resources to help SMEs thrive. SMEs is small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, when we look at this program, when I give resources, so I wanted to give everybody heads up. If you've not watched this show before, I just provide educative and informative resources. It's resources for educative and informative purposes only. I always have to stress that because it's just usually general information and it might apply to you, it might not. But if it does apply to you, please work with a professional. And if you do not have a professional, yours truly, always available to work with you. All you need to do is to go to my website, the driniadesnia.com, right? Website, and it will navigate you to the CPA, to my CPA practice where I do my consulting, all right? And do, all those good stuff, all right? Okay, so today I have another interesting topic, and this is one of the all topics are dear to me. All topics are fantastic that I share, but I wanted to, share this because I've seen, some questions, and I've faced this before, where customers or clients might not really know the difference, right? So today I'm going to speak about a bookkeeper and versus an accountant. What's the difference? And of course, I'll also go into what works for you. All right. And so, because I've seen people try to interchange that, oh, but it's just bookkeeping, and and I just felt that it's very important for me to speak up or speak on these both professions, and both of them are noble, good professions. I'm saying that they are not, but remember, I am talking to SMEs, right? Business owners, small and medium-sized enterprises, right? Or small and medium-sized businesses that might wonder, okay, who do I use? Which one works best for me, right? Okay, so before we go to which works best, let's look at who is a bookkeeper. And so I'm going to look at both the bookkeeper and an accountant under various criteria, right? So definition, right? A bookkeeper. A bookkeeper is someone that actually generally is involved with just really data entry, really mostly day-to-day running of um, um, posting entries. Well, I won't say running, but I say posting entries like debit and credits when it comes to maybe bank reconciliation. Some bookkeepers actually do payroll. Some bookkeepers are also, they invoice, right? So really transactional. That's really the work of a bookkeeper. So when it comes to who are they and what they do, they're just people that and again, generally transactional, right? Data entry, getting things done on a daily basis, right? Right. And we'll see that sometimes, accountants can actually include bookkeeping in their service, but a bookkeeper cannot include what accountants do in their own service, right? So let's move, when we're looking at the definition and looking at when I say definition or specific aspects. Now, for an accountant, actually analyzes data, right? Yes. Preparing the financial statement is just not putting things as, debit and credit, and putting things, when I say debit and credit, just in case you're not conversant with debit and credit, think of it just expenses and revenue, right? An accountant analyzes the data, right? What does this mean? Sometimes, right, when somebody might, for example, let me give a very good example. Let's say that, you know, the bank statement shows maybe three similar expenses, right? Right. Of course, reconciling will show that amount was taken out of the bank, correct? taken out of the bank. So it reconcile, the bank statement will reconcile. But an accountant finds out that what's going on? Why are these similar amounts there? Could there be a reason? That's an example of analysis, right? Could there be a reason why? What's going on? And you know what? Sometimes we see fraud happened with that, or it could be the bank made a mistake. So that's one of the things that we see. That's just an example. Or let's say that um, the company wants to invest in something, right? Remember, I said an accountant generally analyzes data, right? Analyzes, right? The financial statement, makes sense of it, right? So an accountant will analyze, maybe have accounting ratios. So, okay, is this company liquid enough? Is there liquid, right? Is it a is there, does it have a lot of money? Is it liquid, like liquid? And I don't want to go very technical. And liquid is just not the word. Okay, there's a lot of liquid, there's a lot of money in the bank. No, there are some ratios and accountants, analyze to see that, okay, is this something that that the company is struggling? Is there so many forms of analysis, right? And then there's adjusting entries that accountants usually make, right? When they see, okay, there's something that is wrong here and there, right? And then also tax advice, okay? Some, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that, I mean, as a small business owner as a business owner, you want to make sure that everything you make is not going into taxes, right? Right? Everything you make. And usually accountants have that knowledge to do, I mean, it's tax planning and knowledge to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do to make sure that you're not paying so much in taxes, right? It's an analysis and interpreting the tax law, right? I mean, not all accountants are attorneys. Some are not. I'm not an attorney, but tax law is something I read as part of my master's. So, I mean, I have to continue to update myself, right, with those laws so that I can really help my client, right? So, these are some of the responsibilities when we look at, right, a bookkeeper, and when we look at the accountant, right? These are some of the specific responsibilities that really happen when it comes to that. Remember, I said an accountant can also, there are some accountants that actually say, you know what, we're going to take part, you're going to handle the book. They have staff within the accounting practice to handle the bookkeeping, and then they come up and do the analysis, right? They do the general analysis and say, okay, let's see, there's something wrong. Are the ratios, doesn't have meaning? Is there something that we have to analyze, right? I've heard people say, okay, I really don't know if I'm doing well. How do I find that? What do I do? How do I know that? That's when an accountant comes in. Ratios, analysis, right? I know that I've spoken about how you can, when it comes to, for example, budget analysis, right? You do one thing that we do when it comes to analysis. Another good example is, let's say you prepared a budget, and I talked about having a budget for your small business. Very important. You prepared a budget based on facts that you already know that, okay, I am actually spending maybe 10,000 on advertising, and you're seeing that this next month you spend 15. You have the analysis is that, okay, there's a difference. Why is there 15? I mean, an accountant would say, okay, there's analysis, there's a variance of 5,000. 10,000 minus 15 is 5,000. What happened? Now, making sense out of that, it could be that this particular month, right? Or let's say, yeah, you might say, okay, you know what? Or let's say we're analyzing January and February, because we're talking here in the month of March, right? We might say, an accountant might say, okay, January you had, we projected 10,000 Q1 as January, February, March, but as at February you're already spending 15,000, and then an accountant will say, okay, why is there a $5,000 difference, right? So it could be that, okay, you had a new company that you're actually paying because of the additional revenue you're expecting from that company. All right. So these are the analysis. And of course, it could be that, okay, um, um, the amount that was spent was not supposed to be 15,000. It could be that, you overspend so that you can make an adjustment in the following month, right? So something like that. Again, we're talking about analysis, right? It's like that is something that an accountant can do, right? General high and in-depth analysis. And this is something that you cannot get with from a bookkeeper. Now, you might say bookkeeper has experience. Yes, I know that, but there's certain level that a bookkeeper cannot operate at, an accountant can. I mean, though this is just some basic analysis I gave you. I gave you two examples. So again, the bookkeeper versus the accountant, and that's really we're talking about now their responsibilities, right? Now, let me step into the training aspect of it. Now, some bookkeepers really don't have a degree. You don't have to have a degree to be a bookkeeper. You can write some certification exams and you just go with that, right? There's also they have a bookkeeper licensing exam, so you don't need a degree to become a bookkeeper, right? So the training is totally different, right? Okay, so of course you have CPEs, which is continuing professional education. I know that if you want to license, like be a professional bookkeeper, that is, you have to go through, licensing for under the bookkeeping licensing. But you don't even have to do that to become a bookkeeper. You can take some certification exams here and there on a platform or maybe a software platform, and you become a bookkeeper, right? And so there's no pressure of CPE or no CPE, which is continuing professional education. You just, you know it because you have actually taken some of these courses that the some software companies, accounting software companies, provide. Now, accounting is totally different. To be an accountant, you must at least to the barest minimum, have a first degree. You must have a first degree, to the barest minimum, right? To be an accountant, right? But for the accountant, usually it doesn't stop there. Usually it doesn't stop there. Most of the time, if you want to grow in your position as an accountant, you must get a designation. You must get a designation. We have the CPA, certified professional accountant, right? There are chartered accountants in other parts of the world, right? In fact, in addition to that, or maybe you don't want to go to CPA route, there's actually fraud examiners, right? CFE. There's so many other designations you can achieve, but I mean, as an accountant, you can get that as an accountant, right? But I just want to let you know that training is totally different. And for accounting, training continues, right? Like personally, as a CPA, I have to continue to train. When I say train, get CP hours yearly. That is certified public accounting CP hours, because accounting laws change, right? Updates here, update that. So the goal of the professional body is to make sure that we are conversant with the changes, right? We have to know the changes, right? While a bookkeeper doesn't really have to, I mean, they don't really have to know so many. It's not required to get CPEs if you're not a certified bookkeeper, right? Right. So in our case, you have to get all those, CPEs, and it's very important because, as I said, you want to be able to, as an accountant, serve your client very well. How can you do this? You can only do this if you're up to date with changes in your professional body. What are you when you're up to date with those changes, right? And so it's very important. All right. So that is training, right? These are some, the trainings that you need to have as an accountant. All right. Now, I mentioned with the qualifications, training, and then also qualifications. I put both of them together because, again, just depends on what area, but at the least, you have to have a degree. All right. And then I know that I mentioned the career path. Remember, I'm looking at the difference, right? Bookkeepers, there's no other, you're a bookkeeper, you're a bookkeeper, right? Accountants, I mentioned the CPA. I know I mentioned the CFE, but there are so many more. There are people that are CISA, which is the CISA is the IT auditors. There are CIA, which is the CIA, not the government CIA, but this is Chartered Internal Auditor, right? There are people that specialize in that field, right? There are CBVs, which is Chartered Business Valuator, right? There's so many areas, but again, though everything that I'm saying, it needs um um a certification. You have to read, you have to pass those exams that are set forth. So usually accountants decide, what area do I want to specialize in? When we come out of school with accounting degrees, we just find, you have to decide, are you going to even be a management accountant? There's actually CIMA too, a management accountant, right? There's so many areas, right? But these are really the difference when it comes to the different areas of you can just take advantages when it comes to the career path. All right. Now the salary, we know that based on this, of course, more work that accountant or more, should I say work or more, there's work and then believe accountants bring more to the table. I always say that we talk about the big picture, you know. I know that when IT, they said from cradle to grave, we don't want the company to die. So we don't say from cradle to grave because we don't want the company to die. So we just say from cradle, from the onset of the company until the company continues to grow. All right. All right. And of course, selling the company, there's nothing wrong with that too. And winding up, I'm just saying that, but we don't say cradle to grave. All right. If a client or a customer or a client, if you're small, if a business says, you know what, I want to retire, usually, they sell it or they, give the shares up or they give the company up, depends on how the company is structured, but we're not going into that, right? So generally, an accountant sees what the big picture. So when it comes to salary, of course, you know that an accountant is really paid much, much, usually higher than a bookkeeper. So that's really what happens, right? Now, you might, with this, this is the general difference. Of course, I know that somebody there might say, oh my goodness, there are so many more. Okay, the list is not exhaustive. You can have more differences and more, a longer list than this, but these are just the general list I have for anyone that is wondering, okay, what's really the difference between a bookkeeper versus an accountant? And just as I said, most accounting firms, they incorporate the bookkeeping aspect and they continue to add more, right? They add more, all right? So it's one-stop shop, right? All right. So you might wonder, okay, this is very interesting. You say, okay, what works for me? Now, I've seen some school of thought say, okay, it just depends on the size of your business, right? And I would say that, okay, when you say the size of your business, I question that because anybody in business would like to know, it's not just about putting in entries, right? I would like to know, as a small business owner, I'm just talking on the other side, would like to know how can my business go from maybe making a profit of, let's say, for example, 100,000 to 150 to 200,000. The only way you can do that is through analysis, right? You might say, okay, sales, let's sell more. But if you don't manage the sale very well, I know someone that mentioned that his company was doing so well, so well. I mean, so well, because when he said so well, he meant that, of course, they were making so much money, right? But because he didn't understand the principle of accounting, right? He didn't understand how that works. What happened to him is that the company fell. And so I look at it. A bookkeeper, of course, what would the bookkeeper do? The bookkeeper will post the entries and say, okay, these are the expenses you incurred, or this is the bank statement, and then you see that this is the money that was received. But you need more than that to sustain a business, right? And I'm not here to say bookkeeping is not good, but I would say that it's important for you to have an accountant that not just say, oh, my business is too small, I don't need an accountant. I strongly disagree with that because this is a real example I'm giving. All right. So it's important for you to incorporate an accountant that actually understands how to analyze, you know, your analyze your business to make sure that you're not just on the average level. You're moving to the level of, yes, I got into this business to do well, not to just survive. Remember, the goal is not just to survive, it's to thrive. That's what you are in business for. Not just to survive, but to thrive. All right. Okay, so then so a lot of people will say, oh, but my business is too small. But I mean, that was a good example that I gave you, right? The business was, I believe it was one person that owned the business and it was very lucrative. But because it was just not the sale, making money does not, when I say making money, getting money, earning money is not the only aspect of the business. All right. It's not the only aspect of the business, right? Another another issue that, or another maybe well, I would say an issue that somebody might raise and say, okay, but I don't have the money. Why? I mean, I know that, I mean, just like you said, accountants are paid more than bookkeepers. That is very true. But there's something called outsourcing. I've mentioned outsourcing, and please watch my program on outsourcing, right? Please watch it. There are so many companies that outsource their services. For example, yours truly, we outsource our services, meaning that you don't have to have us as a full-time staff, right? Right. The great thing about my practice is that I have a flat fee arrangement where clients pay a flat fee on a monthly basis, which, I mean, gives the client access to our services, you know, to just make sure that at least they have an accountant working with them. Of course, conditions apply. We look at what, depending on the conditions that apply in your business, that will determine how much work, I mean, well, the retainer fee will be, but it's not like keeping us 40 hours a week. So with this flat retainer fee, you get to use an accountant's services, right, without breaking the bank. All right. So that is an argument that people say, oh, but I don't have the money. But well, well, I would say that there's outsourcing, and this is not just for accountants, right? Right. It's important for you to look at companies, even in marketing, that actually outsource and help, and to help in, your brand, right? Because outsourcing really, really helps SMEs. I know that small businesses really have limited resources. And so on this platform, I actually look for ways to really, give resources to, give information, right, to help SMEs to actually, stretch their resources. And outsourcing is a big one. So please watch the show, the outsourcing show, and you'll get more tips. But going back to the accounting aspect of it, don't shy away of saying, what, I can't really afford an accountant. There is the benefit, I always talk about cost benefit analysis, right? Usually when I talk to my clients, when there's something that they want to do, I'll say, okay, let's look at the cost benefit analysis, right? Before you jump into that. That's what an accountant can do, right? Look at the cost benefit analysis. I remember one of the shows I talked about is I talked about how to choose your software, because you have to get good technology in your business, right? And I stress that, don't get so excited when somebody says, I have this great software. You have to look at the cost benefit analysis. You really need that software, right? When I said you really need that specific, I'm talking about that specific software. There could be something cheaper, right? You might say, oh, but somebody might say, oh, but somebody might say in the same industry like me uses that. But how about if the needs of that person is different from your needs, right? So going back to this outsourcing, you have to look at the cost benefit analysis, right? Cost benefit analysis to say, okay, you know what? Yes, this outsourcing works better for me because I really don't have to spend that much, right? Upfront, and I still get the benefit of the flexibility of having an accountant that works with my company. All right. So it's so important for you to look at the resources. When you look at the resources, look at how it affects cost benefit analysis, because I've heard that argument that, oh my goodness, we don't have enough resources to hire. But by the time you actually implement some of the advice that your professional accountant gives you, that could turn around, right? It could turn around, right? Because of, you know, changes here and there. How do you increase your profit? How do you reduce your expenses? Remember, increasing profit, right? Um, really two aspects. Number one, increasing your revenue. I would say, how do you increase your revenue? Not really profit right now. Profit is the bottom line, right? To increase your profit is how do you increase your revenue, or how do you reduce your expenses, right? But if you have both of them, increasing revenue, reducing expenses at the same time, you know what you're going to have, right? Increase in profit, right? That's the goal. And then you have to look at the other aspect. You don't want to have, increase your revenue and then reduce expense and then eventually have more money. Like when I say money, more profit, and then you end up, because of you don't understand the tax planning aspect of it, you end up paying everything out to government, right? Because of taxes, right? It's tax planning. So you have to look at that when it comes to, the benefit of having an accountant on staff, right? We go back to the cost benefit analysis of, you know, having, um, using the outsourced services, all right? Another argument, somebody might say, oh, but your job is not, there's no complexity, right? Size of the business and complexity, they're not the same thing, because somebody can have a small corporate company, but it's very complex. So don't think that size and complexity works together. Somebody can have a large business, but what they do is not complex, right? When it comes to their financials, right? So don't think that is the same thing. So going back to the accountant part of it, I still don't also agree with the complexity. Oh, you know what? Yours is not complex, right? You don't need an accountant. Think again, right? Think again, because yes, you don't want to continue being on one stage, right? Just being, surviving. Look for ways to thrive. You want a business to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do well, right? So you have these tips here and there from this program. You can sit with a professional and say, you know what, I want to do better. What can we do? And then when an accountant sits back and does a thorough analysis, in fact, there's something that we do called business repair, a thorough analysis, and say, okay, where are you, right? Maybe the last 3 years you've been making the same amount of money, or you've not really seen any movement. There must be a reason. We dig in, and we dig in and find out what's going on. All right. So again, I mean, the reason I'm bringing these points is that I've heard this before. Oh, you know what? It's just bookkeeping. No, it's not just bookkeeping, because you're not just there to survive. You're there to thrive, right? And if your business has plateaued, or you just reach a certain stage and you're not moving forward, or you're even making losses, you're just wondering, it's time for you to really look back or look in and say, look at where you are. And sometimes you might just see the bottom line, but you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening. You don't understand, what the meaning of these analysis, the meaning of you're not making enough money. You're wondering what's going on. Could be so many factors, right? So many factors, right? A lot of people feel that, oh, because they get a profit. I've seen people that, oh, you're financial, you have a profit, but I don't have that kind of money. I don't have that money in the bank, right? Doesn't mean that you didn't make that profit, right? It doesn't mean that. So it's so important for you to really sit back and say, okay, what works for me? And from what I'm saying, I mean, from these points, right, it's very important for you to bring an accountant on board, especially an accountant that incorporates the bookkeeping part of it. All right. And because you want to get the big picture, and really, make sure that your SME thrives. Of course, as I said, make sure that you're working with a professional. These points are for you to recognize the importance of the difference, and also the importance of having an accountant on staff, outsourced, if not on staff, to make sure that your business is thriving. And as I said, informative purposes only. So you have to, do your best to work with a professional. All right. Okay, so let's go to our question. So I hope before we go to our questions, hope I've been able to clarify a question that I believe so many people are asking and wondering. Okay, but it's just bookkeeping. It's do I need an accountant? Hopefully, right? With these points, you actually say, okay, maybe there's something I can go back and do my own research with a professional and say, okay, what works for me, right? And of course, if you don't have a CPA working for you currently, yours truly is always here. All right. Just go to our website, right? And then um connect to to my practice. All right. So let's go to the few questions. Let's see. Okay, we're good with time. Let's go to a few questions. All right. The first question is, I have been in business for a few years. I'm thinking of getting an MBA. Is it needed? You know, okay, I would say, school is good. I would think that, an MBA is a very good degree. So if you're working in business for a few years, I'm not seeing here that your business is doing badly, but knowledge is power. I believe that having an MBA is not a bad idea. I believe that it will open more. An MBA would help you to expand your learning and and add to your business. So, again, you have to look at everything that surrounds this decision. I'm just from just reading this line or this question, you know, um, again, is not, based on this, I would say, I mean, why not? But of course, it just depends on what it involves, if factors are involved. But if you're relating it to your business and the MBA, I know some people say, but I don't need an MBA and my business has been okay. But there's nothing wrong with having the degree because the MBA actually um has more knowledge that could actually make a difference in your business. So I would say go for it. Go for it. But again, look at all the factors and everything that pertains to that to see if at the end of the day, that would work for you. All right. Okay. The second question, how do I get past customers that reject my services? Um, First of all, take a breather. And ask, no, honestly, I am very objective about statements like this. How do I get past customers that reject my services? Because I'm in the service industry. All right. So the very first thing I ask myself when things like this happen, I say, why is it happening? Because I really appreciate constructive criticism. I love that. I love it. I love people telling me, you know what, you could do better in this way. So, first of all, ask yourself, why is that happening? Could it be that maybe the way you're providing your services? Could there be anything that is happening? Is there anything that you could do better? Is there anything, I mean, you know, um, it's if you check yourself and you see that, you know, that there is nothing that you did wrong or nothing that you need to tweak tweak your services, maybe make it better, or there's nothing you need to do, then please, I want to say it here that, I mean, everybody can't like you. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry. People get so frustrated when um a few people, maybe somebody out there that it doesn't like them, right? And I've you can't make everybody happy. I remember one because I also give presentations sometimes. And I remember I gave a presentation. I think out of how many people, I think I had 98 or 99% excellent rating. I think it was one or two people that said something. And I remember I think the person that organized this the event, you know, and I said that was a couple of years ago, and I said, oh, why did they give me this? And turned around and looked at me and said, seriously? You know, you're not happy, again, it wasn't anything that I needed. It wasn't anything like constructive criticism, which I keep on saying that that's fine. I would always go back and say, okay, I want to do better. But The person really looked at me and said that I was in charge of the program and said, you had, this was, you look at the rating you had. Look at how everybody commended what you did. Is it just one or two people that that did not, or was it two people or so, two or three? But I mean, very, very, I mean, the percentage was so tiny. And the person was really surprised and said, why won't I be happy with people saying that, yes, I did well, right? And I said, you know what, truly, didn't think of it that way. And so that's going forward, that's what I've been doing. And again, if I will say this, check yourself. It could be that there's the way you're providing your services that you need to correct something, right? And if that's it, correct it. Yeah, correct that aspect of your service. But if it's nothing that you feel that you did wrong, it's okay. You know, somebody that that might reject your service, but others like it. So as long as you're providing the right services, right? So if not, I mean, that I mean, I learned that a couple of years back, and I remember that person, my person that organizes said, really, and I stepped back, I said, yeah, why should I, you know? And so I'm just using that to speak to anyone that, even anyone that has this issue, as though they rejected my service or something like that. It's okay. It's okay as long as there's no need in that aspect for improvement. If there is, just thank the person and improve. But if there's no need for that, why do you have to worry yourself? No. So, so get past them. Yeah, get past them. So, and you get past them, just get past them. All right. All right. So, I always commend people that actually have any form of business. It's not an easy task, right? To really, really have a business. And I just feel that every business owner, especially small business owners, should pat themselves on the back, because remember, usually they have limited resources and you have to work hard to grow that business. Sometimes you sleep very late. You're the first to get up, have to send a couple of emails, follow up, do this, do that, making sure that everything, products are available, I mean, you start before you get people to come to help you out, unless you have, or come and help you out, unless you have a partners from the beginning. So please, you know, anyone there that is asking this question, also, please just, get past that. How do you get past customers that reject your services? Please just get past that and keep on moving. All right? Keep on moving. All right. Okay, the next question. I've been doing my side hustle for 3 years. All right. I am thinking of quitting my job to focus on this full time. It is the right time. I I would not, I mean, I can't say yes, but I would say that, you know what, maybe it could be that your side hustle is really doing well, right? But I know a lot of people, they make sure that they have 1 year pay, like untouchable 1 year pay, so that they have that in savings 1 or 2 years. I know somebody has, I think people have rule of thumb for a couple of months. But I know that a lot of people have 1 year savings before they just quit their job and focus on this full time. So is this the right time? Well, I can't say yes or no. But I would say that you should just sit back and, do an analysis and see if it's something you can use to sustain yourself. All right. So I'm not going to say yes, it's the right time. No, it's not the right time. But I would say step back and really do an analysis to see, and if you feel that right now you could still have the side hustle with your full-time job, I would say, um, you know, check it out first, right? But if you feel you can step away from your full-time job, I would say check it out first also, right? So I'm not giving you a yes or no answer. I would say do an analysis, sit back, and you know what? You can even work with your accountant and say, okay, this is my cash flow. This is where I am. Do you think I can pay myself a salary? It's just, we'll say, you know what, personally, personally, I will say, my firm, we do a lot of running. We run the numbers, we do an analysis to see where do you stand, and things like that to make sure that if you make this decision, you're well informed, right? Financially, right? You're well informed. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I believe I can take another question. All right. How do I analyze my data to ensure growth? Okay. I've been talking about this, I believe, throughout. Talking about, I mean, about analyzing data. I would say that I tell people, please work with an accountant. I don't believe that. I mean, of course, well, if you have the knowledge base, that's fine too. But I would say work with a professional, work with an accountant, because, business should be growing. If a business is not growing, then you have to sit back and see and find out why it's not growing. Okay, growth means that you are moving. There's a trend, growth trend when you're looking at earnings. So you're looking at trend, looking at earnings, and say, okay, this is where I am. This is where I'm. Projection. This is where I am. This is where I'm supposed to be. So there's a growth trend. So if your business is not doing that, I would say talk to a professional. It's very important because you want to just make sure that that I mean, it's just you're not stagnant, right? You're not stagnant, right? You're not stagnated, right? And I would say please don't go in there and do it by yourself. Of course, as I said, you can come and talk to me in my practice. Just go to the website driniadesanya.com and then also navigate from there. All right. Okay, so generally, let's say we have a few minutes. So let me see if I can take another one. Okay, I would say, let me see. Okay, I think I have one more that I can. Okay, Um, the next question is the last. I think I should be able to take one more. Is it necessary for for me to include the 2 week notice, um, 2 week notice requirement for my staff, right? If they want to leave. Um, it's a good question, right? Um, I would definitely say, well, it depends. I mean, I believe that 2 weeks notice is just fair. But I know that so many companies, what they do is that they have this at will, and sometimes they don't provide the 2 week notice. Sometimes they actually tell the person to go home and then they still pay the 2 weeks. It just depends. But I get it when they say that they just want to be careful, right? And so they just want to be careful. So they don't really want to provide that 2 weeks. I know the 2 weeks notice, right? So it's up to you. It's up to you. I know companies that they just tell the client to go, sorry, the employee to go and still pay them because they don't want them to still be part of their business, right? So it just depends on how you want to go about it. I'm very skeptical about someone resigning or somebody that you have fired and the person is still, I mean, because there's a 2 weeks notice, the person will still be there. I think it's very dangerous for the company because the person can do anything, right? I'm not saying the person will, but it's just to protect your company. A lot of large companies, when you're fired, they change the password. They, make sure that you don't get in the premises. And so I understand it might seem that that's very, why should they do that's very, that's not nice. But you know what? I've seen people that email customers and clients when they know that they're fired. So they just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. All right. All right. So I hope that I've been able to respond to your questions and, hopefully I've been able to clarify bookkeeper and accountants and what works for you. And it's wonderful that I've been able to come to you today and really appreciate those that, that's decided to allow me to be part of their evening or their afternoon or their morning, wherever you are. Um, it's been um, it's been a very interesting topic and nice, and it's also been nice being here. I just also want to make sure that I let everyone know that remember that you know what I could give so many resources here, right? Of course, you have to work with your professional, but I want to stress here that you have to be intentional, right? You cannot just say, okay, yeah, I want to thrive without doing nothing. You have to be intentional. This information, get to talk to your professional and, see how it positively impacts your business, right? Thank you again for being here. See you next time. Okay, bye for now.